Africa. Wake up, Africa, your time has come. Open up your eyes and see the sun. Open up your spirit. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Hello and welcome to Africa Watch on the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. Hey, how are you doing? How's everything going? Thanks to every single person that has subscribed to the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification button so that you get alerted every time we, release an episode. Thanks to all the people who have supported us through Patreon and through our PayPal for your generous donations. They were so instrumental in helping us to, get cameramen to shoot us while we were in the US and to help this program to continue even while we were on our Building Bridges tour in the US for a whole month. So I appreciate each and one of you so much. Now, today I want to talk about something that's very disturbing, very worrying, and it's what's happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, there's been an Ebola outbreak. It started in October in North Kivu province, and it has been spreading, and it has now become the second worst outbreak of Ebola in history. And it's worse than what had happened in West Africa a couple of years ago, where 11,300 people died. Now, there's so much that can be said about Ebola. There's so much that can be said about Ebola and where Ebola came from and what Ebola is. And I'll be getting into that in a little while. But it's very interesting that, there's an election coming up in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's also very interesting that every single electronic device that we have needs a metal that is only found in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So when I heard that the Ebola virus had broken out in the DRC, particularly in North Kivu, which is one of the most mineral-rich regions of the Democratic Republic of Congo, I'm sure the red flags went up in my head. And the North Kivu province is extremely tricky because over 50 armed militias are actually operating there. There's been conflict going on for over 20 years as different international and local agencies sponsor different militia to try and get a hold of these minerals like coltan, tin, etc. And it has created so much where the blessings of the earth, the blessings of the natural resources have actually been literally a curse for the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, the most worrying thing is that earlier this week, Ebola has now spread to Butembo, which is a city in a city east of the Democratic Republic of Congo that has 1 million people. Now, so far there's been 471 cases in Congo reported, 225 confirmed deaths, and they say that, so what they're trying to do now is vaccinate the people. And you know what? So they said that 41,000 people have received the experimental vaccine, which is owned by Merck. And and even the virus, they say the virus is man-made, allegedly. The Ebola virus is definitely not just something that came from nature. And there's been so many, it's almost like an HIV, but I'll get into that in a little while. So some of the challenges that are being faced. So Merck has the patent and is the one that produces the Ebola vaccination. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to get as many people in the Democratic Republic of Congo vaccinated. So they've been going for the people in the far out regions to try and vaccinate them, and because of this outbreak, and the company, the Merck company, only has 300,000 doses, and and preparing these doses of the Ebola virus takes months, according to them, because every vaccine has a little bit of the disease in it. You know that, right? So now the challenges have been that there's the deadly attacks by the rebel groups, which has forced the containment work to stop for days. And also, locals have resisted the vaccine and safe burials because they say that, they don't trust the health workers. Actually, some of the health workers have been attacked. Some of the members of the Red Cross allegedly have been attacked because what the locals are saying is that the Red Cross and all these different agencies that are trying to vaccinate them are actually spreading the virus. And, some Congolese actually don't even believe Ebola is real. And they are convinced that the Red Cross is allegedly infecting the people. Now, because of the instability in the region, because there is not really a strong government, Kabila Jr., he's not really that strong. There's no one to protect the people. And this is heartbreaking because a lot of professors and different scientists have actually released statements throughout the years informing the public, trying to inform the public that, things like Ebola and, things like HIV are actually bioweapons that create germ warfare and that are done to eliminate the African population. Now, whether these stories are accurate or not, at the very least, our governments and our people should be researching and seeing and verifying these stories instead of saying it's hogwash, it's rubbish. Anyway, I'll be sharing more of this and what has been actually, what information has been coming up about Ebola right after this.
Oh, come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel.
Welcome back to Africa Watch on the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki, bringing you all the latest updates from across the African continent. And, what I'm talking about here is the outbreak, the second worst outbreak of Ebola, which is happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo as we speak. And my question has been, why now? Why now, as Congo heads to a major election? Why now? And why are people ignoring what the Congolese are saying, that that Ebola actually doesn't exist, and that the Red Cross is allegedly actually infecting people? Why aren't we taking these allegations seriously? Why are we so trusting as an African people? It's absolutely heartbreaking. And you know what? Whether this is true or not, at the very least, we should be investigating it, and we should trust the word of our people first before we trust these foreign agencies that was set up by our former colonizers. I mean, it just... And by the way, have you ever heard of the UNICEF or or any of these people going to vaccinate people in different European nations? Did the WHO, were they welcomed into the US when there was that brief Ebola outbreak? Did the WHO go to the US and start injecting different Americans? So why can't they do it in Africa? Like, why? There's been so much going on. On Friday, an armed group was actually attacked a UN peacekeepers in the city of Beni, which is in North Kivu, which is at the epicenter of the outbreak. And earlier in the week, actually, 7 peacekeepers were killed and 11 injured. So it's a very dangerous place for the UN peacekeepers, and they are not trusted. Now, ironically, this is the 10th time since 1976 that the Ebola virus has struck Congo. And we must also remember that it's tricky because Congo shares the border with 9 nations. Now, there's a lot of evidence, and there's some articles that I will put in the description below. So please go ahead and just inform yourselves. There's a lot of evidence that suggests that Ebola could actually be a bioweapon that has been unleashed on the Democratic Republic Republic of Congo. Now, a lot of people don't know this because a lot of people say that, Ebola actually started in the Democratic Republic of Congo, but actually it didn't. Ebola originated in Germany with the Marburg virus, and then it kind of sprung up again in Western USA. But, what people say is it didn't originate in the Democratic Republic of Congo, but it could have been used by CIA puppet Mobutu as a weapon against his own people. Sickening and just heartbreaking. Now, so many different professors have come out trying to warn the African people of this. There's one professor, he's Dr. Broderick. He's a former professor of plant pathology at the University of Liberia's College of Agriculture and Forestry. He came out and he released a book actually and a statement where he said that Ebola was actually a genetically modified organism and that it was like HIV, where it was a bioweapon that was being used on the African people. And he said, Ebola and HIV were both man-made, and and the human trials were actually conducted on the Africans to see how it would work. Now, he's not the only one who has said this. There's also a Dutch scientist who came out and he said, what we are dealing with here is a biological warfare work that was conducted at the biowarfare laboratories set up in the USA, allegedly, by the US, allegedly in the west coast of Africa. And he said that if you look at the map produced by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, you will see that where the laboratories are located. And there are actually a lot of bioweapon laboratories run by the US and the CDC across the African continent. So he said, I think these laboratories, one or more of them, are the origins of the Ebola epidemic. Guys, this is heartbreaking stuff. So there's so much evidence. And also now, there's a report that was published by theguardian.com where it narrates the story of the US, Department of Defense funding Ebola trials on humans. And it said the trials, which started just a few weeks before the Ebola outbreak in Guinea, which ended up being the worst Ebola outbreak ever, and Sierra Leone. So they had started some trials on humans, and then about the outbreak, and let's not forget, remember when the Ebola outbreak broke out? Was it late last year? And then all of a sudden it landed in the US, and then within seconds it was gone. It was like it evaporated. Well, let me not say too much, but I really want you guys to look at some of the articles that I've left. There's a Dutch scientist. His name is Professor Johan van Dongen, and he said he released various statements, and he said in Africa there were varieties of wide experiments of dubious scientists vaccinating children with contaminated vaccines, and he said that for example, the World Health Organization couldn't deny that they were aware that from 1954 to 1957, a gentleman called Dr. Hilary Koprowski injected over 1 million Africans with the virus of AIDS and Ebola, deceiving them that it was a vaccine for polio. This is a Dutch scientist. And he actually came out and he said enough was enough. And the reason he was releasing this information is because he knew that there was an agenda to eliminate the African populations. I've been talking about this for so long. There's so much information online. And Dongen actually dismissed another myth, I'm winding up now, to which that said that AIDS and Ebola came from monkeys in Congo because Congolese people eat monkeys and human contact with monkeys resulted in the outbreaks. Now, he said that Africans had been coexisting with these and they'd never had these outbreaks. So why all of a sudden in the 70s do these things appear? And lastly, one of my heroes, the lady I look up to, the late Wangari Maathai, she actually spoke about this. And you know what, when I read about this, because she died of cancer a couple of years back, and it was so It was so sudden how she went from being totally healthy and then all of a sudden she had cancer and then all of a sudden she died. But I didn't know this. But immediately after she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for her work in reforestation in Kenya, she released a statement where she said, and this was on October 9th, 2004, where she claimed that the AIDS virus was deliberately created as a biological agent. And she said, some say that AIDS came from monkeys. I doubt that because we have been living with monkeys since time immemorial. Others say it was a curse from God, but I say it cannot be that. Black people are dying more than any other people on this planet, and we must start to question why. And she said it's true that there are some people who create agents to wipe out other people. If there were no such people, we could not have invaded Iraq. So my question is, was Madai's death due to natural causes or... And, the U.S., when she said this, the U.S., they congratulated her, but they said, we don't agree with her saying that, the Ebola and HIV were bioweapons created in the West. But this just shows you, regardless of what the truth is, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. But regardless what the truth is, we must start to investigate these things. And this reminds me of a prophecy. There's a gentleman that got in touch with me a couple of days ago, and he said that 3 decades ago, a prophecy was given by an African seer who said that in the future, non-black people would not be allowed to reside in Africa because of the atrocities that had been committed on the African people. They would be allowed to visit, but never again would they be allowed to live on the continent. Because when we know the truth, it will be heartbreaking.